Hello everybody, this is the first video on the FlamingoGadgets channel. Well, technically it's the second. The first video was just one I made on the whim, but this is the first video in a series of knife collection videos. If you don't know, I am a bit of a knife collector. I've got quite a few knives in my collection, and I figured I'd share it with people. This here is the Maxam Falcon VII, and some basic facts about this knife. For one, it is a $7 knife. It is not very expensive. In fact, it is the second cheapest knife in my collection. The next thing to keep in mind is that it is a lockback knife with a thumb hole for opening, or technically more of a thumb oval. Another thing to mention is this thing is kind of ripping off Spyderco. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that they put an oval here instead of a circle, I dare say it would be just straight up a Spyderco knockoff. Not exactly the most original design here, that's for sure. However, the question is it a good functional knife? As far as the blade steel is concerned, Maxam doesn't really specify what kind of stainless steel it is using. They just say that it is stainless. And that's really annoying because, well, 1810 stainless steel, the kind of stuff you see being used to make pots and pans, is technically a stainless steel. It's just that it can't hold an edge or be heat treated, and then meanwhile, technically CPM 3V is a stainless steel, and that's basically the best steel in the world. So the question is, what kind of stainless steel is this? I can't say for certain, however, I do believe it is either 420 or 420J. It doesn't appear to have as good edge retention as the 420HC blades that I have in my collection, which seem to have a longer lasting edge than this one. However, it is still sufficient edge retention. If you can at least get the knife to paper cutting sharp in about 5 minutes, if you're the kind of person who just wants a working edge and isn't trying to go for perfection where, you know, it splits every single hair and whatnot, the edge retention's okay. It's not really great either. It's kind of mediocre, but you can't really beat on materials too much at this price point. As far as material quality is concerned, this is where things kind of go downhill, again, because of the price tag. So this knife features diamond pattern on one side of the scale, but on the other, no diamond pattern. There's nothing on the other side of the scale. It's very asymmetrical. It very much, there's just something bothersome about that. I don't know what it is. It's just, I don't like that. But from there, the pocket clip is, well, actually, it's actually one of the nicer feeling parts of the knife, actually. However, it is relatively loose. I worry that this knife could theoretically fall out of my pocket because of that. I haven't had that happen before, but I feel like this kind of pocket clip could do that. In addition, this is the opposite of deep carry. It is not just non-deep carry, it is very, very, very not deep carry. So yeah, just keep in mind that your knife isn't gonna be very well hidden inside the pocket with this pocket clip. It's not really gonna sink into your pocket like other pocket clips do. From there, the lockback is a little bit flimsy, but it at least does lock. And admittedly, I would still trust this more than a slip joint knife. So there is at least that. However, there is a little bit of slop in the mechanism sideways here, and there's also a bit of side-to-side wobble on the blade when it is in lock position. Fortunately, from the factory anyway, there is minimal forward and back movement. There is a little bit of that on this blade because I actually have put this through a little bit of use. Namely, I did a little bit of carving out of some bamboo that I decided to remove from the environment out on our street because it's an invasive species, and made some stuff out of the bamboo, and I did most of the carving with this knife. It did loosen up a bit, so I wouldn't really use this for like particularly hard use, but it held up just fine. On to the pros and cons of this knife. So the main good thing about this knife is it is affordable. $7 is not a lot for a knife. And yeah, that there are not a lot of knives that I would be less worried about losing or getting confiscated than this. I probably wouldn't even realize that I lost this in my collection if it got lost somehow. That's how little this knife costs. And then from there, at $7, I'd say it is a functional knife. On to the cons, however. Build quality is Well, I mean, I've seen worse out of gas station knives, and actually quite a few knives that are more expensive than this, but it's not great. From there, another con for this knife is that the edge retention could absolutely be better, and by far the biggest con, however, I'd say, is the fact that this knife is kind of ripping off Spyderco here with its design. Like, it's very unoriginal in design. Like, they basically, all they did to make it not a spider, look like a Spyderco, is they put an oval here instead of a circle, and that's pretty much the main visual difference distinguishing this design from a Spyderco. That's been the Maxam Falcon VII. Overall, it's a pretty okay knife, just not better than okay. It's not terrible because you can't really call a knife at sub $10 terrible unless it's like downright unusable. Yeah, it's not exactly the greatest. Now the question is, where in my knife tier list does this belong? Well, right now, I only have one knife reviewed on my tier list, this one. So technically, for now, it is an S-tier knife. I don't suspect this knife is going to be holding S-tier very long, though, and being the best knife ever, it's also the worst knife ever because it's the only knife on the channel that I have properly reviewed or made impressions on. So, yeah, we'll see how the tier list holds up, or how this knife holds up on the tier list over time. If you guys liked the video, be sure to hit the like button, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video. I will probably showcase another knife in my collection from there. See you all in the next video. Bye.